the Civil Service Commission family sa pangunguna ni Chairperson Carlo Alexi Nograles at Commissioners Eileen Lizada and Ryan Acosta. And also good morning to the ED of CSB, Ms. Maria Marcy Cosare Ballesteros and Director Julius Alegrado. Batid po natin na Comsec, bakit ako nag-echo? Tama ba to? Sige, pakiayos na lang paayos sa ating tech. Thank you. Okay na ba? Ganun pa rin. Pakipaayos na lang, pwede? Okay na? Alright. Batid po natin na isa sa gustong isulong ng bagong administrasyon ang tinatawag na right sizing ng burokrasya. Hindi naman talaga ito bago, ngunit nagdudulot pa rin ito ng pangamba at agam-agam sa mga kawani ng gobyerno. Malaki ang gagampan ng papel ng komisyon sa pagtitiyak na mapangalagaan ang karapatan at kapakanan ng maapektuhang kawani. Habang tinitiyak nitong patuloy pa ring mabigyan ng mahusay at tapat na serbisyo ang mamamayang Pilipino. I hope to hear from Chair Carlo what his plans are along this line. Ilan sa mga gusto nating malaman at marinig, nakasisiguro ba na magkakaroon ng maayos na konsultasyon? Mapag-aaralan ba ng maigi ang mga nakahaing panukala at magkakaroon ba ng safety nets sa mga ahensya para sa mga manggagawa nilang maapektuhan na sa tansya ay aabot sa 288,000? And because we are here to examine the budget that CSC will receive for 2023, which as I recall from our briefing, I wish to notice, and if I correctly remember, is only 0.02% of the proposed GAA. The committee wishes to see whether the funding will allow CSC to fulfill its mandate as the central personnel agency of government while promoting morale, efficiency, integrity, responsiveness, progressiveness, and courtesy in the civil service. Para sa mga kasama kong senador, 2/3 lamang ng budget request ng CSC ang nirekomendahan ng DBM. And if asked, they can also present to us how their budget compares with the other constitutional commissions in our country. So with that, we're now ready to listen to your budget presentation, Chair Carlo. After which, as has been the practice, our senators, based on their arrival or log-in time, and beginning with, if present, the minority leader, will have 10 minutes per round of questions. So, Chair Carlo, you have the floor.
Maraming salamat, Chairperson Senator Risa Ontiveros, at binabati ko rin po ang ating mga senators who are in the call, Senator Bongo, and later Senate Majority Leader Senator Joel Villanueva. I am joined by Commissioner Eileen Lourdes Lizada to my left and Commissioner Ryan Alvin Acosta to her left, and Assistant Commissioner Ariel Ronquillo to his left, and to my right, ED Marcy Ballesteros of the CES Board, and Sir Julius Alegrado also of the CES Board. So allow me first, Madam Chair, to discuss with you and the Honorable Committee the Civil Service Commission budget proposal for fiscal year 2023. Next slide. This will be the presentation outline. And let me begin by saying that based on the latest version or iteration of the Philippine Development Plan, PDP, we are now found under Chapter 16, next slide, of the PDP under the subsector goal of practice good governance and improve bureaucratic efficiency. So related to this, as mentioned by the Honorable Chair, the CSC operates towards meeting its mission of gawing lingkod bayani ang bawat kawani and achieve our organizational vision of becoming globally acknowledged as a center of excellence for strategic HR and organizational development by year 2030. And since this is a budget hearing, we will look at the programs of the CSC based on the PREXI. As can be found in the PREXI, Our subsector outcomes are Civil Service Professionalization and Workplace Cooperation Program, the Civil Service Human Resource Governance Program, and our Administrative Justice Program. Next slide. So for 2023, our major thrusts really is to continue formulating human resource policies responsive to the current needs, particularly with this ongoing pandemic and the challenges of civil servants. And of course, as mentioned by the Honorable Chair, even our participation in the discussion on the right sizing. Of course, we shall enhance our systems and procedures in accordance with and in support of the ease of doing business law. We shall, and to that end, we shall pursue our digital transformation efforts and push for our program on the human resource maturity in the bureaucracy through our Prime HRM. This is our program to institutionalize meritocracy and excellence in human resource management. So to the budget, as you can see from these slides, our original budget proposal to the DBM was actually 2,726,000,000 plus. But when the NEP was published, we can see that what was approved in the NEP is only 1,960,000,000 plus, thereby showing that there's a difference of 765,803,000 pesos less than that proposed by the Civil Service Commission. Next slide. Compared to the 2022 GAA, we have a slight increase, particularly in our personal services of 59 million, and our retirement life insurance premium of 5,681,000, giving us a slight increase that's 3.3% or 64,683,000. But as mentioned by the Honorable Chair, next slide, we actually have a very small budget compared to other agencies. We are in fact only 0.0372% of the total 5.268 trillion national budget.
Sorry, Chair, nasabi ko 0.02. So it's only a little better pala.
It's a little
Plus
better.
0.01%.
Later on, Madam Chair, we'll be showing you how we fare in terms of our budget compared to budgets from other jurisdictions or other neighboring countries. So we can appreciate how much challenging it is for the Civil Service Commission of the Philippines. So for the sub-programs under the PREXI, we're showing in this slide how the budget is assigned per PREXI program. For the Civil Service Human Resource Governance Program, the corresponding budget is actually only 24 million pesos. Our sub-programs under that program includes the Civil Service HR Policy and Information Management sub-program with 7 indicators and its corresponding targets. Next slide. So here you will see our targets. And then for the next sub-program, this is the Public Assistance sub-program. Here you will find and can appreciate that we also, under our contact center ng Bayan, we accept complaints and refer complaints to the proper agencies. Next slide. And then on the Civil Service Professionalization and Workplace Cooperation Program, the corresponding budget is 35.973 million pesos. And you will find our targets based on the outcome indicators under the sub-programs. So we have 4 indicators and corresponding targets under the Civil Service Professionalization sub-program. Next slide. And then we have the Civil Service Capability Building sub-program. So here you will find our learning and development initiatives and its corresponding targets. Then on to the public sector unionism sub-program with 3 indicators and its corresponding targets. The Honorable Chair will be pleased to know that here you will find our targets for agencies with accredited public sector unions, um, public sector unions with their corresponding CNAs, and even in dispute resolution through amicable settlement. And finally,
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
Nalimutan kong palang itanong nung briefing natin.
Yeah.
Why is it that yung number of agencies with accredited PSUs, 1,200 plus, pero yung number of accredited PSUs with CNAs, 1,300 plus? Bakit mas mataas pa yung PSUs na may CNAs kesa yung accredited PSUs sa agencies?
Why is that? Wala si HR. Madam Chair, if it pleases the Chair, we have our HRRO head in the call.
Yes, please.
Director Tess, are you in the call?
Director Tess? If she's not yet in the call, Chair, pwede na lang natin itong balikan.
Yes.
Salamat po.
Thank you. Madam Chair, while we're waiting for that answer, may I just state on the record that although these are indicative targets assigned to us by the DBM, I would just like to report that our registered unions in the government offices is 1,944, and our accredited unions is 1,299. So higher than the target of 1,222. But we'll get back to you on why the accredited PSUs with CNAs is higher than the target there is higher than the number of agencies with accredited PSUs. All right. So on to may I continue, Madam Chair? On to the Administrative Justice Program. This is the assigned budget at 7.784 million pesos. So overall, our budget for MOOE operations is 67.762 million, which, if I may pursue, Madam Chair, is quite small, given the fact that we take care of 1.8 million civil servants. So that's just our budget for operations. Nevertheless, we would like to share significant accomplishments that we have done from the entire fiscal year of 2021 all the way to the first semester of 2022. And this pertains to relevant policies and resolutions, obviously very important in this time of the pandemic.
Chair, excuse me, before you continue with the accomplishments, since you noted yung total MOOE nyo na item is only 67 million, how much did you actually request from DBM na ang nirecommend lang ay 67M?
Yes, Madam Chair. So, based on our request to DBM, as you can see in the slide, our request was
Yan din yung tinitingnan kong slide kasi, Chair. Ang nakalagay dito 547.
547.
Okay po.
695. 547,695,000,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
So ang nirecommend para sa inyo is just a little over 10% of that at 67. Pero bakit dito sa table 373?
No, Madam Chair,
Apo.
sorry, the 67 is the budget based on the different Rexy indicators that was assigned to us.
So the
based on
67M was for the Administrative Justice Program.
for all the Madam Chair, all the sub-programs assigned to us under the Rexy.
All right.
All the others kasi would pertain also to the MOOE would also cover other other operating expenses
Okay po.
of the CSC.
Alright.
These pertain only to our sub-programs and
Sub-programs.
programs under the Prexi.
Okay. Salamat, Chair. Please proceed with the accomplishments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as mentioned, we actually released the policies for the flexible work arrangements in government. Also, guidelines on absences of government officials and employees due to COVID-19 vaccinations and or adverse effects following that. The omnibus rules on leave. Next slide. Policies pertaining to affected personnel due to Executive Order number 138, series of 2021, which is the expanded devolution for local government units pursuant to the Mandanas Garcia ruling. The policy on employment in government service of Filipino citizens with dual citizenship. The vaccination, everything that has to do with the national vaccination days, catch up, bayanihan bakunahan, and everything that had to do with vaccination. And going digital, the committee will be pleased to know that even our learning and development initiatives have been converted into digital and online learning. We also develop new courses that are relevant to the call of the times, particularly in digital transformation, smart organizations, even value policy guidelines. Then, of course, we supported the rollout of vaccination in the various town hall meetings. And for our accomplishments in learning and development, we have thus trained 106,647 total government participants, and we have transformed our public sector HR symposium, one of the biggest HR symposiums in the country, into virtual. And we just actually concluded our public sector HR symposium virtual this month of September. Other accomplishments pertain to values program, accreditation of more L&D institutions so that there will be more L&D institutions that would provide L&D for government officials, designed, implemented new courses, and on to the contact center ng Bayan, which is actually celebrating its 10th year anniversary this year. We're proud to say that of the transactions received and the concerns received by our contact center ng Bayan, we have an almost 100% resolution rate at 99.69 for 2021 and 99.8% thus far for 2022. And you will find the top 5 complaints received by our contact center ng Bayan. We also conduct, as Madam Chair knows, the civil service examinations. And while it was challenging for us in year 2020, that so much so that the CSC was not able to conduct any exams in 2020 because of COVID-19, in 2021, there were several attempts that to conduct civil service exams, but was disrupted because of the change of community quarantine classifications in 2021. But in 2022, we're proud to say, Madam Chair, that instead of holding 2 major exams in 2022, we conducted 3. And in fact, the latest exam of August 7, 2022, we have just released today the results of our the latest civil service PPT exam for prof and sub-prof. So it's now on the website, and you will find there those who passed the civil service exams. So we also have our corporate social responsibility. This is the Manang Lingkod Bayani Award, wherein through our fundraising activities, we are able to provide assistance to civil servants, qualified civil servants who died or were killed in duty or on duty, so pursuant to their respective functions. So those who lost their lives in the line of duty, We have this PLBI, and in the next slide, you will see over the years how many we have provided the assistance to PLBI awardees from 2011 to 2021. So for the Pamanang Lingkod Bayani Award, we provide, of course, recognition through a posthumous award citation in the form of a plaque signed by the chair of the Civil Service Commission. We provide scholarship. 3 immediate family members of the deceased civil servant may avail of scholarship, baccalaureate, masteral, or doctoral in any of the 111 member institutions of the PASUC implemented through a MOA entered into by the CSC and PASUC last August 8, 2008. Scholarships will be in the form of discounts on tuition and school fees, 100% for the first beneficiary, 75% for the second beneficiary, and 50% for the third beneficiary, and a one-time financial assistance of 100,000 pesos given to the immediate family of the deceased awardee.
Chair, I remember nung briefing natin na itanong ko kung bakit ang laki ng spike sa 2015. Nasagot naman nung isang CSC sa chat box na that was the year nga of the SAF 44. So, in having noted that, hindi po kayo nagbibigay ng Pamanang Lingkod Bayani Awards sa mga AFP employees, sa PNP lamang?
Opo, because strictly speaking, PNP kasi as part of the civilian, while AFP is not civilian. Uniform personnel po yung
Right,
AFP.
salamat, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we continue to the Honors Award. So apart from that, that is our CSR, Madam Chair. But for the Honors Award program, we also provide the Presidential Lingkod Bayan Award and the CSC Pag-asa Award and the Dangal ng Bayan Award. So one of the pillars, of course, of HR is rewards and recognition. And this is our way of saying thanks and recognizing our outstanding government workers. So since 1966, there have been 2,756 public service exemplars recognized. For 2021, a total of 26 government individuals and groups were awarded in 2021, comprising of 9 Presidential Lingkod Bayan, 7 CSC Pag-asa awardees, and 10 Dangal ng Bayan awardees. And for 2022, the search is actually ongoing, Madam Chair. And on to the final slide, because this being a budget hearing, we are proud to say that in terms of our fund utilization, we are almost perfect score, Madam Chair. Almost 100%, actually 100% for MOE, Phoenix, and CO. And as can be appreciated by the committee, hindi pa kasi 99.97% po kami sa 2021. And then in 2022, next slide, we're almost 100% as well. So rest assured, Madam Chair, that when the Congress and the DBM gives budget to the CSC, we fully utilize all our funds. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Salamat, Chair. And yung comparison between CSC budget as a percentage of the GAA with other countries in the region, at least of identical or similar levels of development. Sir.
Okay. I thought that we had a slide. We wanted to show a slide. There was a slide in the Viber group. But anyway, Madam Chair, for the Philippines, as you know, in US dollars, the equivalent of our budget in the CSC at 1.96 billion pesos is 33 million US dollars. And we are 0.037% of our national budget. And as mentioned, we take care of 1.8 million civil servants. Our neighbor, Thailand, in US dollars, their equivalent body to our CSC receives 45 million US dollars. but they only register 382,655 civil servants. So all the more reason to point out that we take care of more civil servants, but we are receiving lesser budget than Thailand. Thailand takes 0.05% of their national budget. Tayo po is 0.037. Malaysia has times 10 almost the budget. For their equivalent, our CSC, that body receives 313 million US dollars. So they receive 0.43% of their national budget, while they take care of 1.58 million civil servants. Indonesia, Madam Chair, which is really our neighbor, our next door neighbor, receives 147.3 million US dollars compared to our measly 33 million US dollars. They receive 0.07% of their national budget, and they take care of 4.2 million. So mas malaki po yung civil servants ng Indonesia. So, Madam Chair, as you asked us to do, herein is the result of our research on our neighboring countries pertaining to how much budget their CSC or its equivalent receives in their jurisdiction.
Daghang salamat, Chair. I appreciate this research not only for the sake of the Chair, pero yung mga colleagues ko dito sa Senate. And clearly your research shows that except for Indonesia, whose CSC counterpart is taking care of more than double our number of civil servants, CSC is taking care of more civil servants than at least two other countries in our region, but receiving just a fraction of their budget, ranging from 1.5 times larger sa Thailand to 10 times larger sa Malaysia, and therefore accounting for a smaller percentage of our total national budget than those countries sa kanilang national budgets. So this is something na ipaalala ko sa mga kasama ko dito sa Senate if and when it comes to the point that the CSC will be making additional budget request. At least may mga pegs tayo, may mga standards, sort of standards that we can look at that are being set in practice dito sa sarili nating region. So salamat for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Sen Bongo, meron po ba kayong gustong itanong? Kung walang tanong, kayo, Sen Bongo, are there other colleagues online who would like to ask questions? And then, of course, Chair, iniintay po natin yung pagdating ni Sen Joel. Maybe kung wala pang tanong yung mga kasama online and while we're waiting for Majo to arrive, I'd just like to ask Chair something about the intersection between the work of CSC and ARTA na susunod po namin after CES Board, susunod po namin i-hear against red tape. So because the committee will also hear the budget of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, I'm interested to find out the relationship between CSC and ARTA, specifically in that fight against red tape. The chair notes, for instance, that the top 5 complaints received by your contact center ng bayan relate to slow process or failure to act on request. On the other hand, and batay din po sa briefing din nila sa akin, ARTA requests funding for them to operate their regional offices. When actually the existing CSC regional offices also undertake anti-red tape measures. So Can the chair help clarify where CSC and ARTA complement and where, if any, they overlap?
The chair is absolutely right. Before the Ease of Doing Business law was enacted, CSC used to be the anti-red tape unit for the bureaucracy, and I used I use the word unit because in our regions we do have R2 units, ARTU units. And then, of course, when the Ease of Doing Business was passed, then there was now a definition of where the ARTA jurisdiction begins and how the Service Commission helps ARTA in the performance of its duties and functions. For that, Madam Chair, to explain more about it, may the Honorable Chair recognize our Assistant Commissioner, Attorney Ariel Ronquillo, to explain in more detail how ARTA and the CSC help each other.
Salamat, Chair. Assistant Commissioner.
Yes, magandang umaga po, Madam Chair. Under RA 11032 po, Madam Chair, the Civil Service Commission is one of the bodies where the ARTA can file a complaint for violation of 11032. Dalawang agencies lang po kasi ang considered doon as disciplinary authorities. Yung isa po, Office of the Ombudsman, yung isa po, Civil Service Commission. So kapag presidential appointees, automatic po sa Office of the Ombudsman yon. Pero pag non-presidential appointees, they can file this with us. Now, another thing po is that the conduct of the survey, what's the survey? Report card survey po has already been transferred to the Anti-Red Tape Authority. But the result of the survey will be forwarded to the Civil Service Commission for our analysis to determine what innovations or changes should be introduced to better improve public service. So, yun pong areas na yun, nagkakatulungan po yung ARTA at saka Civil Service Commission. And also for the information of the Honorable Chair, there is an ongoing talk between ARTA and the Civil Service Commission on how to further delineate our duties and responsibilities with respect to better implementation of 11032. Tsaka para nga po maiwasan yung overlapping of functions that you mentioned earlier. Kumbaga po pinaplansya po namin, Madam Chair, para hindi po kami nagsasapawan ng jurisdiction. But under the law, yung pong dalawang yan ang maliwanag na delineation namin ng functions based on 11032 po.
Salamat, Assistant Commissioner Ronquillo. Posible kayang matapos na yung talks at may resulta na bago namin matapos yung trabaho namin sa budget para maabisuhan din po yung pag-finalize namin ng budget, di lamang ng CSC, pati po ng ARTA, at least as far as red tape is concerned.
Yes, yes po, Madam Chair. As a matter of fact, the scheduled final talk between our two panels were just cancelled because of some pressing activities. Pero we're coordinating with them for the new schedule. Palagay ko po matatapos naman po before that period.
I look forward to that, Assistant Commissioner. Salamat po.
Salamat po, Madam Chair.
And Chair, baka kung matapos nyo in time at hindi pa namin na-finalize yung budget, ma-share nyo din sa amin yung mga results. At least as far as yung mga implications that can help us really refine the budget, including for ARTA.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Sen Bongo, are you online? Meron ba kayong mga tanong? Kung hindi pa, I do have one more, probably last question, Chair. Actually, mas sanda akong itanong ito sa TESDA, but gusto kong i-pick din yung brain ng CSC Chair about this. Meron din po kaming mga employees dito sa Senate who are not yet plantilla, pero bawa in different units here, yung iba quarter century na nagtatrabaho. And I recall lang po, nung briefing nyo sa akin about CSC, meron kayong dinedevelop na point system na may ibinibigay din na points sa years of service para papunta dun sa, sabi nyo nga binabalanse nyo, yung papunta dun sa pagpasok sa civil service nung ganung mga government employees natin na nasa JO or COS status. Although I'm not able to provide the chair with details right now of those people working here at the Senate, posible bang ma-apply sa kanila yung ganong point system that the CSE is working?
But actually, recently, we've already approved our indicative dates for the next civil service exams for next year. That's the year 2023. And one is on the first quarter of 2023. The other one would probably be August yata yung so March and August ang indicative dates. So between now until March of 2023, the commission will be finalizing our proposed policy or resolution, assigning points to JOs, COSs who have served X number of years in government, and X number of years equals Y number of points. We just need to coordinate it very well so that when we apply it in the next coming civil service exam, planchado na po lahat. So we already have a proposal that we've thoroughly discussed in the commission. We just need to iron out more details. But yes, to the answer, hopefully by the next civil service exam in March 2023, we would already be able to implement the what did we call it? Preferential rating for JOs and COS. So by that time, those who take the civil service exam in March 2023 only need to prove that they were a JO, COS, casual, contractual, who served in government for X number of years. And then our regional and field offices will be able to determine if that is true, how many points equivalent will be assigned to them, to him or her, and then we will compare it with their raw score in the civil service exam, add the points, and get a new overall score and determine whether or not he or she passes the civil service exam. That way, there are more chances of them passing the exam and eventually joining us in the civil service.
Thank you so much. That's really very good, hopeful news. Usually mga JOs, COSs, casuals, contractuals, never na nakakabit sa kanila yung adjective na preferential. So this will, I think, really be something very hopeful news for them. Salamat kayo. Last call, Sen Bongo. Meron po ba kayong mga tanong? Otherwise, ano na namin ito, i-deem submitted na po. But of course, Chair, if you will allow, I will want to wait for the majority leader. Okay lang bang? So if as it seems there are no more additional queries, Pwede naman pong mag-interpellate at bukod sa mag-propose ng amendments, institutional amendments sina Sen Bongo, of course Majority Leader Sen Joel Villanueva at yung iba ko pang mga colleagues. And then I have a few more questions in writing. Sasubmit na lang namin sa chair, and just please reply also in writing before the plenary debates. So all these being the case, the budget of the Civil Service Commission is deemed submitted to plenary. This meeting is suspended.
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam
salamat
Chair.
kayo,
Maraming
mabuhay.
salamat.
Thank you,
Mabuhay.
Madam Chair.
Executive Director Maria Marcy Cosare Ballesteros at sa mga ibang bumubuo ng Career Executive Service Board, including Director Julius Alegrado. The Chair notes with appreciation the continuing presence of CSC Chair Carlo Nograles. Mga bumubuo po ng CES Board, ang ahensyang naatasan na mamahala sa Career Executive Service. We likewise want to listen to your budget presentation and how it can help you fulfill your mandate to, quote, continue forming a pool of well-selected and development-oriented career managers who shall provide competent and faithful service to the government. The chair also notes the presence already, thank you, sir, OIC, Arta Attorney Perez will be with you shortly, sir. Salamat po. So, Ma'am Edie Marcy, please proceed with your budget presentation. I noted earlier the presence still online of Sen Bongo, and the chair is also hoping that Majority Leader Sen Joel will be joining us shortly. Please proceed, ma'am. You have the floor.
Thank you, and good morning, Honorable Chair Riza Hontiveros, and to our Senator Bongo, Senator Joel Villanueva, and the honorable members of the Senate Committee on Finance, and of course, with the presence of our CES Board, Governing Board member, CSC Chair Carlo Nograles. As you have mentioned, Madam Chair, the CESB is a creation and brainchild of the former or late President Ferdinand Marcos, mandated under Presidential Decree Number 1 to form a continuing pool of well-selected development-oriented career administrators who shall provide competent and faithful service. So the CESB's priorities are aligned with the updated Philippine Development Plan under the chapter to ensure responsive, people-centered, technology-enabled, and clean governance. So under our budget proposal for fiscal year 2023, as submitted under the National Expenditure Program, consists of under the PREXI. Our organizational outcome is focused on merit and fitness system for career executive service officers strengthened, and the pool of globally competitive CESOs sustained through career executive screening and development program. So our thrust and priorities consist of administration of CES eligibility processes and processing of appointment to CES ranks, and conduct of leadership and management proficiency program under the competent and other competency-based trainings and career development under the CS capacity building, and the management of performance evaluation system for incumbents of CS position, as well as review, formulation, implementation, and monitoring of policies concerning personnel management in the CS, together with information systems management and development and general administration support. So our budget proposed for the fiscal year 2023 under the NEP is 88.3 million. This is a 20% increase from the previous year's budget. Because of our return to the pre-pandemic mode of operations in the delivery of our services to our clients. So our budget consists of personal services, 37.3 million, and MOE of 50.9 million, and with Phoenix of a very small amount, or that's consisting of financial charges. Well, our original budget proposal actually, ma'am, is 98.24. So there's a difference of 11.2 consisting of capital outlay, which was slashed from the DBM's National Expenditure Program. This consists of our capital outlay for office infrastructure improvements to strengthen our capacity for our frontline services. So our budget proposal is actually 42% PS and 57.7% MOE. Well, with our budget, we commit to infuse the government, particularly the CES, with well-selected career development managers. With 10.29 million for the eligibility and rank appointment, we shall conduct written examination, assessment center, validation, performance, and interview activities, as well as develop and enhance our assessment center materials and test instruments. With part of the MOE as well, 7.9 million, We commit for professional and career development, specifically to raise the level of managerial competence in the CES and developing a deeper sense of commitment, of honesty, integrity among CS officials. Specifically, this will enhance the overall HRD program for our CS officials to ensure more responsive, purposive lifelong learning and HR intervention program, such as our Leadership Management Competency Program, 8 courses, 4 Saldiwa for 120 officials and 4 Gabay for 120 officials. Likewise, we have the following other leadership programs. Our annual Leadership Conclave and Public Leader Summit held in the middle of the year, as well as the annual Lifelong CES Lifelong Learning and Leadership Congress, which we normally hold in November for our anniversary celebration. We also commit for the strengthening of our CS accreditation and equivalency system for executive leadership and capacity building program. For the 8.4 million under the MOE for performance management assistance, we would like to strengthen the CES performance evaluation or CESPES in all the department and agencies to support productivity and accountability and promote the morale and welfare of our CESOs and eligibles. Administer the enhanced CESPES to the CES officials in all national government agencies and GOCCs and timely process the results. We would like to also strengthen the GAWAD CES or the Presidential Award Program and also the administration of our semi-annual recognition for the CES Very Innovative Person or Group Award and Outstanding Cost-Effective Officer or Group Award. We also seek to institutionalize and strengthen public and stakeholder support for the CS program to continually conduct CS strategic conversations one-on-one with officials in the different national agencies to address concerns of the CES or CES officials or third-level officials, and publish and disseminate our monthly and quarterly and anniversary issue publications to public manager. With the 1.7 million for policy planning and legal, we seek to enhance policy-making processes and client servicing facilities to ensure our policy responsiveness and stakeholder engagement. With 4.6 million for our management information system, we hope to maintain our online services, such as the website, this online CESPES, our online or hybrid training events and learning management system, and also our other development of our mobile applications for computerized CES written exam, eligibility and rank tracking information system, executive 201 profiling, and online plantilla management. So we have a total MOE of 50.9, which also include our 17.9 million for general administration and support services. So for our PS, we have 37.3 million for 39 filled up positions. We are still trying to, in the process of selecting and filling up the remaining unfilled position in the CES board. For our accomplishment, Madam Chair, as of 31 December 2021, we have 50% of CES positions occupied by CESOs and CES eligibles. And then we have also processed 100% of the qualified and commendable officials recommended for appointment or adjustment in CES rank within 1 month from submission of complete requirements, and also 100% of our officials with complete CESPES or performance ratings processed within 30 days. Likewise, we have 99.73% of our participants rating the training programs conducted at least very satisfactory. So we have also crafted and submitted to the board, CES Governing Board, 100% of our instructed formulation of policies. So for last year, we have 74.9% obligation VUR. This is due to the suspension of our office infrastructure projects and civil works due to the declaration of ECQ and MECQ and shifting of the examinations and trainings, other SES development activities from face-to-face to online and hybrid. This mode reduced the transportation, logistics, and venue expenses which accounted for the low budget utilization. And the IATF approval of the resumption of our exams was released only in May 2021, and the new proposal to increase the number of examinees per conduct of the exam has not been approved by IATF. So likewise also the new surges of COVID-19 which disrupted our scheduled examinations. So, but for our cash financial disbursement, we have 99.9%. And we have complied 100% of our prior year's COA audit recommendations. So for our SES written examinations, we have conducted 8 blended SES written examinations. Our conduct is limited by the IATF resolution of conducting only 10 participants, examinees per examination conduct. So just to give you, Madam Chair, to how we conduct our examination. Wait. Dito yata yun. Yan. This one. Madam Chair, let me just apprise you on the status of the conduct of our SES eligibility process examination from fiscal year 2021-2022.
Brief
So we
na lang
have
siguro,
blended.
ED, if you may. Thank you.
Blended. We follow the IATF Resolution 115, allowing the conduct of SESWE and assessment center complying with the minimum health protocols. So our examinees are co-located in one building, which is the resource center in our office. They are in their respective individual rooms, so wala pong contact. Nasa sarili silang room. They have their laptop. We e-proctor them. So there's no contact between the SES examination administrators and the examinees. So we communicate the instructions through the Zoom, but they are monitored by CCTV in their respective rooms. So ganun po yung aming pagkakonduct. Ganun din po yung sa assessment center, ma'am. We have our assessors. They are online as well. Some are in the different rooms of our office, but some are in their office or in their homes. And our assessees are also in their individual rooms. Ganun, ma'am. But as of this year, ma'am, in April 2022, SESB already restarted conducting our face-to-face SES written exam with strict adherence to minimum health protocols. We conducted... Okay. Yeah, we have a total of 575 examinees who hurdled the face-to-face SES written exam from April to August 16 in Camarines Sur, Guingoog City, Davao City, Iloilo, University of Philippines, Quezon City, Cebu, and in Davao. So we held it simultaneous sa Quezon City, sa Cebu, and sa Davao po for our examinees. So far, Madam Chair, ito po ang aming status of the CS eligibility process conduct in 2021 and 2022. So we have already 645 total examinees for the written exam as of August 31, and we have already 165 examinees for the blended assessment center. We also conduct our performance validation hybrid, and we have already 45 in 2022, and as well as panel interview conducted via online 91 as of August 2022. So that's all po, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Okay. Salamat din, ED Marcy. Online pa ba si Sen Bongbong? Online pa sila? Alright. Okay. Sen Bongo, meron po ba kayong mga tanong? Okay. Sila lang online, wala nang ibang sila. And then, posibleng parating pa rin si Major. Hindi na sila. Okay. Kung wala pang tanong si Sen Bongo, I just have a few, ED Marcy. So, with the new administration po, how many of the career executive officers have been appointed to key positions? At ilan naman po yung inilagay sa floating status?
Yes, as of September 30, 2022, actually, Madam Chair, we have 2,820 positions covered by the Career Executive Service. This is so far the largest since 2016, and the total number of the total number of CS positions, 2,225 are filled and 595 are vacant. So of the total filled CES positions, 45% are occupied by the CESOs and CES eligibles. They total about 1,012. 769 are CESOs and 243 are CES eligibles. So the percentage of career officials and eligibles occupying CES position stood at 53% actually in 2016 and 2017, but it gradually observed a downward trend in the succeeding years. So yun po yung gusto naming i-address in our strategic direction to enjoin also our department secretaries, and through stronger collaboration with the Office of the President, we hope that we will be able to increase the occupancy rate of our CESOs and eligibles in the CS position.
Salamat, Edie. Actually, itatanong ko rin yung ilan sa mga non-CESO officials appointed to CS positions eventually do take the exam. Pero sa ngayon, ilan in absolute numbers at anong percentage nila na career executive officers appointed to key positions at ilan ang on-floating status?
Madam Chair, we do not have data on the floating status. Those who are career, yun na nga po, yung
Yun yung 2,200
Opo.
plus. Yun yung career executive officers na appointed to key positions.
yun po yung 1,012
1,012 pala.
that are appointed to CS positions
Oh.
na CESOs and CES eligibles.
Okay po. So ano na lang, before we go to plenary, pahingi na lang po nung data on those still on floating status.
Sige,
Opo.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay po. And then how many non-CESO officials appointed to CES positions eventually do take the exam? Non-CESO when appointed but eventually they take the exam.
Actually, ma'am, we have now a new track for the CES eligibility of our presidential appointee. We call it the portfolio assessment for CES eligibility process. They are not, there's no written exam, but they have to go through an onboarding program. It's a development-oriented approach where they undergo the Saldiwa and Gabay as their onboarding. And then after that, they go through like an assessment center, but it's not a pass or fail system. We call it a leadership and management competency alignment. There, we are able to, our assessors are able to identify their development opportunities and areas for improvement. And with that result, they go through a targeted competency intervention to address those development opportunities. They are aided by a coach or the assessor that assess them during the AC. We are still in the first batch of our PACES. So, wala pa pong masyadong, well, the first batch is still under the targeted competence intervention, madam. But after the targeted competence intervention, they also undergo the 360 degrees performance validation with integrity check and also the panel interview before their application is deliberated by the board for conferment of CS eligibility.
And ilan po itong mga non-CESO officials who are appointed to CES positions na hindi na ire-require to take the exam, pero nandito sa first batch, sa first round nitong leadership and management competency alignment. Do you have their number right now?
So we will get the number totals, Madam Chair, as of September 30.
All
I
right.
will provide you with that.
Salamat Edie. Basta yung new information dito is hindi na sila, well, kung gusto, they may take the exam but they are not required to anymore as long as they pass through
But
this
in view of the
blinded program.
examination, Madam Chair, in their application, they have to submit a portfolio of their leadership and management experience. They will have a narrative, an account of their performance in their incumbency, using the STAR framework, the situation, action, and the result of their action. That is the base. That document or that portfolio is the basis for the deliberation of the board for their acceptance to the onboarding program of the PACES.
Salamat, Edie. And lastly, for this representation, kanina po may pinakita nga kayong fill-up rate or non-fill up sa position sa Career Executive Service. What accounts po for the non-filling up of 579 positions in the Career Executive Service? No qualified applicants po ba? Lack of interest po ba? Kanina I noted you said that there's a fill-up rate sa ngayon of about 50% lamang. Ito bang 579, yun ba yung balanse na not filled up yet?
Sa CES Board Secretariat po ba? O
Sa
CES?
buong Career
Sa
Executive
CES.
Service po, opo.
So 595 po yung vacant. Okay.
595.
Vacant. In the CES positions lang po.
All right po. So hindi lang 579, 595.
Opo.
So what accounts po for that non-filling up sa ngayon of the 595?
Madam Chair, actually, the appointment, as you know, is the prerogative of the President under the Constitution. And perhaps with the transition government, they're still trying to fill up some of the positions.
So it's just a matter of time. Sa karanasan po ng CES board, like in previous years or kahit first years of new administrations, ganong katagal bago napupuno?
Actually, sa karanasan po, meron din naman po talagang a number of unfilled vacant positions.
So even till the end
Even,
of
opo.
administration,
Opo.
for example. Okay. So hindi naman sa
Hindi siya
within the
lahat
first 100
i-fill
days
up.
na pupuno.
Opo.
Okay. Pero itong 595 na unfilled sa ngayon, may expectation ba kayo na at least ideally, optimally, within how long na maa-appointan sila lahat?
It's up to the Office of the President po and the recommending authority, our department secretaries. But right now, ma'am, our effort is we compile a master list of CES positions and the master list or roster of CES eligibles and CESOs within each department. So meron po kami tinatawag na CS Blue Book. We update it quarterly. We gather the data from our HR directors or chief of personnel in each agency. So binabalik po namin sa kanila yan. With may matrix po yan. Nandoon po yung pangalan ng lahat po ng mga CESOs and CES eligibles na nasa kanilang mga ahensya. At para po may information po ang appointing or recommending authority within the department that they can tap CESOs and CES eligibles within their agency. Lately po in the transition, we have sent letters to the new cabinet secretaries informing them of these statistics of the CS occupancy within their department and enjoin them to help us in increasing the CS occupancy rate of CESOs and eligibles in their respective agencies. For that, we also conduct strategic conversation with parang per agency po, where we dialogue with our HR and our third level officials on their concerns, how they can get CES eligibility, CESO rank, the processes, and also their CESPES or performance rating, which are also critical in their appointment to CES rank. We
Salamat.
also have, ma'am, our
Yes.
executive placement program, where we endorse CES eligibles and CESOs to vacancies position.
Salamat, Edie. I do remember yung input nyo about this master list, the roster, yung executive placement program nung briefing natin. It's really good para ma-maximize po natin yung mga CES eligibles at ma-match ng maayos dun sa mga vacant positions pa. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sen Bongo, mayroon pa po ba kayong mga tanong para sa CES board? Wala nang ibang online. Sila na lang, si Sen Bongo. All right, because yes, Edie, before I deem your budget submitted, meron pa po ba kayong i-input? Yes, ma'am.
Yun po yung what we have submitted to you yesterday, our request for reconsideration of our capital outlay of 11 million.
The chair notes the request and thanks the ED for submitting that in writing yesterday. I'll bring it up with my colleagues at pati po sa aming Finance Committee Chair, si Sen Sani. And we'll work on this. We'll work on this po.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am. No, you're very welcome. So if there are no additional queries at hindi na daw po darating si Majo, Sen Joel, therefore the budget of the Career Executive Service Board is deemed submitted to plenary. This meeting is suspended.
Thank you, ma'am.
Congratulations po. Anti-Red Tape Authority family sa pamumuno ng officer in charge nito na si Attorney Ernesto V. Perez. The chair apologizes to the Arta family for medyo delayed po yung pagsisimula ng inyong budget hearing, but I hope we will timely finish and be able to submit this, deem it submitted to the plenary. So we are ready to listen to the budget presentation of the agency created under RA 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business Act of 2018, which amended RA 9485 or the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007, and hope to be better clarified about ARTA's role and mandate vis-a-vis those of other bodies such as the CSC and the Office of the Ombudsman. Good morning, sirs and ma'ams. So, sir, you have the floor. And I'd also like to just... and also, the chair notes gladly that the Senate President, Sen. Mig Zubiri, will also be joining us in person to support the budget of the ARTA. So you have the floor, Attorney Perez.
Magandang umaga po, Senator Risa Ontiveros, Madam Chair of the Senate Committee on Finance, Subcommittee H. On behalf of the Anti-Red Tape Authority, we're glad to present to the honorable body our presentation, which is outlined as follows. This was already transmitted to your office late last night following our meeting the other day. Joining me in this meeting is Undersecretary Carlos Quita of the Finance and Administration, the Director for Compliance Monitoring and Evaluation, Director Grace Fernandez, OEC Director Dr. Carlson Mocte of our Better Regulations Office, and Director for Finance and Admin, Director Rabin Kilala, and of course some of the staff from the Planning and Public Relations Unit. The outline of our presentation, Madam Chair, will be as follows. We'll try to make this as quick as possible. This is about, well, of course, the mandate of ARTA under Republic Act 11032, ARTA's trust and accomplishments in support of the President's 8-point socio-economic agenda, and then the ARTA's vital role in the national government right-sizing program and the bureaucratic efficiency. And then, of course, the most important of all, the ARTA budget presentation, appropriations, budget utilization, and budget proposal for fiscal year 2023, issues and concerns, and then ways forward. Republic Act 11032 is the law that created the Anti-Red Tape Authority, which amended Republic Act 9485 or the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007, which used to be implemented by the Civil Service Commission. Under Section 17 of the law, the mandate of ARTA is two-pronged, the empowerment and enforcement. Empowerment is about streamlining, re-engineering, and improving regulatory management system and capacitating stakeholders. Enforcement is about investigation, case filing with the Office of the Ombudsman or with the Civil Service Commission. The ARTA's trust and accomplishment in support of the President's 8-point socio-economic agenda following his directive to streamline bureaucracy is really for ARTA to, in line with its mandate, on the right-sizing program, ARTA is happy to be part of the proposed top administration bill for the right-sizing committee to be chaired by the Office of the Executive Secretary and then vice-chaired by the Department of Budget and Management. For its empowerment function, ARTA can really help government agencies in streamlining their processes and procedures and re-engineer systems and procedure. Also, ARTA, in partnership with the DICT and other concerned agencies, provide various information and communication technology-based platforms to digitize the system and govern, among which, of course, to be noted is the JMC that we issued sometime in July of 2020, which is the revised JMC on 2021 on first on the shared tower, and then the following that is the fiber optic tower. Number 3 is that ARTA will replay on digitization initiatives of the current administration, and foremost of which is the Central Business Portal, now known as the Philippine Business Hub, and then the Electronic Business One-Stop Shop, the Pinas Bilis TradeNet, and other digitization initiatives for implementation this year, which is the Philippine Business Regulations Information System, the Anti-Red Tape Electronic Management System, and the Business Process Mapping, and as well as the Philippine Ease of Doing Business Reporting System. For the streamlining initiatives, we have lined up for launching, in fact, tomorrow, the National Policy on Regulatory Management System, which is a system developed through the support of the U.S. Agency for International Development, and we were trained by and also by consultants coming from the University of the Philippines, National College of Public Administration, and after almost a year of various consultations, write-ups, we will finally be launching said NPRMS, which is the overall national architecture that will guide the way regulatory management system is being implemented in the country, meaning from end to end, from the formulation of the policy or regulation by government agencies to the required processes, like it should be subject to proper consultation, regulatory impact assessment to ensure that the regulation does not cause undue burden or cost to the public, including, of course, compliance, monitoring, and evaluation under a whole of government approach. And recently, about 3 weeks ago, we also launched the report card survey. And as we speak, our teams are going all over the country and within Metro Manila to conduct the report card survey among 50 top priority agencies. And also our team from the Compliance Monitoring and Evaluation Office is conducting inspections of various agencies with respect to the requirements of the Ease of Doing Business law, as well as other issuances of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. So ARTA really, within its defined mandate on ease of doing business in efficient government services delivery, recognizes the whole of government agencies, and that agencies should work together, eliminating silos, eliminating red tape in the process by way of streamlining processes and digitizing government processes. We have seen the impact already of the programs that were initiated by the ARTA in terms of increased awareness among the citizens and investors on the ease of doing business, because they know that agencies are already required to publish all the services that they render to the public in their citizen charter as required under Republic Act 11032, so that anyone who has a pending application with any government agent will only have to look at the citizens charter of the agency, and there he or she will find services being offered, including the processes required, the documents required, the fees to be paid, the procedure, including the personnel involved, so that no agency can impose a requirement or fee on top of what is published in the citizen. Otherwise, that is already considered a violation under Section 21 of the law. So we have this empowerment really on the part of the people, and to assist the agency, the ARTA, in the monitoring of compliances by agencies on this citizen charter. Good morning, sir, Mr. Senator.
Yeah, I would like to acknowledge
father
the
of
presence of the
Public
Senate
Act,
President,
Series
Ms.
32.
Zubiri. Thank you for joining us. Salamat kayo.
Ever supportive.
Yes, definitely. Please proceed, Attorney Perez. FP, they are just presenting their budget. Yes,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity. So we continue to provide assistance to the public by increasing, of course, capacitating first government agencies by the various RIA training or regulatory impact assessment training. So far, we have already conducted 2 trainings to 232 agencies and more than 1,430 government personnel. We would like to highlight this report card survey, which is a way of determining the satisfaction level of anyone who does business with any government agency, where he is capacitated to rate the agency in terms of the services that were rendered by the government, whether there was compliance with the 3720 requirement, whether there is no additional burden, additional cost to the transacting public. And also, clients are assured that if they have any complaint at all, agencies should set up a complaints desk. And that also, aside from that complaints desk, they can email or air the concern to the ARTA, and they are assured that their complaints or concerns will be duly answered. On the impact of the various programs and projects of ARTA, we have so far received favorable reports or responses from major telecommunications players telling us that there is really substantial improvement in terms of the number of permits passed in 2021, 68,711, in fact, compared to merely 5,962 in 2019. So that's an increase of over 1,000%, Madam Chair. Overall, from the report of DITO, they have reported an increase from last year's performance, 902%, from SMART, 318%, and from Globe, 112%. And in the 2020 UCLA Speed Test Global Index report, the Philippines rose 3 spots to 82nd in terms of mobile internet speed. Compared to 182 countries, we have increased 2 spots from 43rd to from 45th to 43rd out of 143 countries. In the terms of the 2020 World Bank Doing Business Report, we improved our ranking from 124 to 95. If World Bank did not suspend the conduct of the survey last year, we expected to increase our ranking by 4 notches. But even with the suspension of the World Bank of that Doing Business Annual Report, the authority decided to pursue the same by having our own Philippine Ease of Doing Business anti-red tape doing business survey. And we're now in the process of conducting hearings, meetings with the technical working group to pursue that initiative. As of 2022, a total of 210 agencies were trained and 1,546 civil servants were trained with a regulatory impact assessment under 2 track, first by the Development Academy of the Philippines and the second track by the University of the Philippines National College of Public Administration. In the 2021 DILG annual report, there is also reported increase in terms of revenues from business taxes of 19 billion. We can attribute this to the increased awareness among the people that we have established, in fact, we have required by law, the setting up of an electronic business one-stop shop. And that local government units are mandated that by June 17, 2021, they should have migrated from manual to electronic. But in view of some limitations in terms of internet connection, challenges in terms of resources, we have been receiving requests for extension. But this coming Friday, we're going to launch the operations manual for the electronic business permitting and licensing system that will unify the process of all LGUs in the way they issue business permits and licenses. And we are really confident that this manual will significantly improve the processing time and reduction in documents by local government units, because we are having a unified application form for all local government units. And also there is a continuous collaboration with the Bureau of Fire Protection in terms of the issuance of the fire permit. This is actually causing the delay. But in view, after several meetings with the Bureau of Fire Protection, they have agreed to align their system with the operations manual, and hopefully this can also significantly reduce the number of steps and the number of days for the issuance of business permit and licenses. So with that, we have also received report that on the collection of business taxes and charges nationwide, an increase in terms of business registration from 1,696,000 to 697, increase. Total collections in 2020 of 69.3 million increase. For our significant accomplishments, our major program, which is the Nehemiah Program, which aims to reduce by at least 52% the processing time and documentary requirements. For telco, first, we have seen that there is a significant reduction in the processing time from 241 days to just 16, and from documentary requirements to 86 to 15, and the number of permits from 13 to 8. That is for the shared tower. For the fiber poles optic, reduction in the processing time from 868 days to 74. Number of step permits from 11 to just 5, and number of requirements from 62 to just 26. For food and pharma, we have seen this a reduction in processing time or steps from 28 days to just 9 days, or 60 days to just 21, the number of steps from 28 to 9, and the number of requirements from 41 to 12. On the logistics, reduction in the number of steps from 209 steps to just 24, and then processing time from 271 to 235. We're thankful to the Land Transportation Regulatory Board for accepting the challenge to be the lead agency in implementing our unified logistics pass, which we hope will assure the seamless travel of cargo from the point of entry to the point of destination. And this will also eliminate the issue of the requirements of LGU on imposing pass-through fees. In fact, we are receiving several complaints, and we have already raised this to the Office of the President in terms of LGUs that are in continuous violation of this prohibition against the imposition of pass-through fees. For construction permitting, we signed JMC number 1, series of 2021, which aims to set the standards in processing of construction-related permits from 22 steps to just 3 steps, and from 120 days to the one imposed by law, which is 3720. On the power and energy, we're just starting to reach out to the Department of Energy because they have a law, the Electronic Versatile One-Stop Shop. But we have been already part of the committee, and so we have drafted the memorandum of agreement with the Department of Energy. We have submitted it to them already, and this is just under consideration by the Department of Energy. Foremost among the streamlining and digitalization initiative of the ARTA is the Philippine Business Hub, or the Central Business Portal, which we launched last June 2022, together with the DICT, and we made Quezon City as our model city, where it will take only before from 13 steps to 6 steps to register a corporation, and then 33 days to just 3 days. And hopefully within the year, our dream is to make this into 1 working day to register a corporation. On the electronic business one-stop shop, I already mentioned that already with the launching of the operations manual. One significant public-private partnership which we have launched last May, and continuous training, is the Pinas Bilis program with the Aboitiz Group. This is an end-to-end assistance at no cost to the government by the Aboitiz Group using their CSR for capacity building and donation of equipment to 13 national government agencies and 10 local government units. On the TradeNet, this is actually the principal mandate is with the DICT and with the Department of Finance. The challenge in the TradeNet is the onboarding of agencies. So far, there are only 4 agencies that are onboarded and 6 are to be deployed. The challenge on right now is the signing of the memorandum of agreement between the Department of Finance and the ICT as to who will be really the program owner. And what ARTA is doing is just supporting and facilitating that agreement between the Department of Finance and the ICT under our mandate on the interconnecting government agencies. On the Philippine Business Regulations Information System, this is also in support of the National Policy on Regulatory Management System. We are already on phase 2, meaning the partial implementation within the year. That system will allow stakeholders and government agencies access to proposed and existing government regulations to avoid overlapping or conflicting regulations. The system was developed at no cost to the government. This was funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development and done through the expertise of the National College of Public Administration of the University of the Philippines. The same goes with Artemis, which is also funded by the USAID, which is a system for monitoring of compliances by agencies on the requirement of the Citizens Charter. It will be a tool for the authority and stakeholders to monitor the compliance of government agencies in terms of their posting of their updated Citizens Charter. Pilot implementation for both PIBRIS and Artemis is within this quarter. Hopefully before the end of the year, we should be done with our pilot implementation. The Go Smart app is undergoing rebranding. This has to be aligned with the IBPLS, which is also being pushed by the DICT, which is a system for local government units to digitize the processing of applications for business permits and licenses. For the initiative on streamlining, I already mentioned the National Policy on Regulatory Management System, which is anchored on the Philippine Good Regulatory Principles that was issued recently by the authority through the assistance of the United Kingdom following their 15 years experience of urging government agencies to follow the 10 good regulatory principles being practiced by OEDB countries and more developed countries, and that these principles are on clarity, legal and empirical basis, cost-benefit assessment, engagement, coherence, whole of government, continuous evaluation, competition, and risk assessment. Now, basic also in RMS is the requirement of regulatory impact assessment. We have already released the manual for this, and this is also being incorporated in the National Policy on Regulatory Management System. This was also released at no cost to the government. This was also funded by the USAID and with the technical support from the professors from the National College of Public Administration in the University of the Philippines. So as I've already mentioned that 142 government agencies and 1,430 government personnel are trained. This will ensure that regulations do not cause undue regulatory burden or cost to the transacting public. We also launched the issued a policy on agencies that should have their whole of government re-engineering manual. Hopefully, when the AO25 committee of the Department of Budget makes this as a requirement for government agencies and the performance-based bonus, this compliances by agency will be improved. Now, one major program that we also launched recently is the report card survey. This report card survey is a tool that is aimed at reducing regulatory burdens and will monitor compliance by agencies on the requirements of the Ease of Doing Business law as well as other agencies, which is also a way of recognizing government agencies. By November, we should be able to already have the results of the survey, and by December, we should be able to award or recognize agencies and local government units that are compliant with the law. On the various trainings conducted by ARTA, I already mentioned about the RIA training, the Pinas Bilis, yes. For the Pinas Bilis, 30 civil servants were trained on business process improvement and data management analytics from the ICT, DILG, and ARTA. On whole of government reengineering, as of 2022, 103 agencies were already trained. On orientations of Republic Act 11032, as of 2022, 1,629 agencies were already trained or oriented. On the implementation of the Philippine Ease of Doing Business Reporting System, the JMC on the guidelines for the establishment of this Philippine EODB GSD reporting system, its pilot implementation and other purposes was signed last June 28, 2022. However, with the change in administration, we have to probably reach out to the new secretaries of the various agencies involved in this reporting system. What we're doing is we are conducting meetings with the 10-member technical working group whose creation was approved by the Ease of Doing Business Anti-Red Tape Advisory Council. We are also in the process of conducting business process mapping. We will be hiring our consultant next week, hopefully, in view of the clarification with the issuance of MC3 that will allow the officer in charge to hire contract of service staff and consultants. We will be able to onboard a consultant for business process mapping, hopefully within the month. For compliance monitoring, as of September 2022, 9,321 out of 10,173 agencies and LGUs were monitored. So 91.62% have submitted their citizen charter. On the Zero Backlog Program, this is a policy or regulation or circular that was issued recently by agencies to require government agencies on their backlog submission. They don't really have to tell us that they have no backlog. If they have backlog, they just have to inform us. If they have the reason for the backlog and their timeline for removing the backlog. We are actually in the belief that there should be no backlog among government agencies in view of the automatic approval provision of the law, where if the application has been submitted complete with all the requirements and fees have to be paid, then and if the processing period of 3/7/20 have already passed, then the agency all to is just approve it automatically, subject to validation. So that in case of post-validation and there is finding that the applicant submitted some fake document, then it can be automatically revoked. On the submission of re-engineering plans, 42% have submitted. So that's 4,297 out of 10,173 agencies and local government units, or 31%. For the for the submission or creation of Committee on Anti-Red Tape Authority, Committee on Anti-Red Tape, this is a device or scheme adopted by ARTA to ensure that government agencies comply with the requirements of 11032, where they are required to set up their own Committee on Anti-Red Tape, so where all initiatives should be coursed through that Committee on Anti-Red Tape by the various government agencies, and the trainings have to be conducted, meaning that the Committee on Anti-Red Tape should be composed of people that should be heavily involved in the compliances with the Ease of Doing Business law. And this has already been made part of the next year for their performance-based bonus. So we expect a significant increase in their compliances from 32%, from 31%. So hopefully
Applicant agencies.
on applicant agencies, yes. For the complaints handling, for automatic approval applications, we have so far issued 8,512 automatic approval. For 2022, there are only 6 applications for automatic approval, and 2 were issued and 2 are pending. The 2 pending, 4 are pending. Of the 2 pending, this is actually the pending application by Now Telecom and Net Telecom. But in view of the Department of Justice resolution, we are suspending this pending clarification with the Department of Justice. as to whether their resolution will apply to pending applications with the National Telecommunications Commission. And there is also a pending case before the Court of Appeal, so we do not want to be charged with for indirect contempt for violation of the sub judice rule. But the moment we get clarification, the moment the Supreme Court issues a final decision on this, then we will comply immediately. For the case handling, we have set up 21 entrapment operations. 28 fixers were apprehended and 3 were already convicted for violation of the anti-fixing law as mandated in the law. 74 cases were filed, meaning filed with either the Office of the Ombudsman or with the Civil Service Commission. Now, I think that that's for the mandate of ARTA. We will now proceed with for 800 million. But the DBM approved release the
Attorney
budget.
Perez, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Because SP will have to move to another budget hearing, but he would like to pose some questions for the ARTA. So, imamaya na po natin ituloy yung budget presentation proper. SP.
Maliit lang naman budget nila, ma'am. It's not that big. Yeah, I don't think budget is the issue here. First of all, thank you very much to my distinguished chairman of the subcommittee, our deputy minority floor leader, Ma'am Risa Ontiveros, and to the men and women of ARTA. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Good to see all of you here today. I know it's an embattled agency, ma'am. Embattled because they're doing their job. Unfortunately, when they do their job, it ruffles a lot of feathers. And we knew that from the very beginning. And you have to remember, Ma'am Risa was one of the authors of this measure. She voted for this measure in the 17th Congress. We passed this. I'm now still the chairman of the Committee on Trade and Commerce. As author of Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act, we crafted this law with the singular goal of cutting down bureaucratic red tape. Obviously, we saw that the Red Tape Act that we passed 20 years ago was not effective because we had business applications pending for 6 months to over a year. Obviously, in deference to the old law, it was not being efficiently and effectively implemented. And so, as chairman of the Committee on Trade and Commerce and Industry, we looked at the root cause of the issue. And I had that opportunity when I was 5 years as a civilian. When I resigned in 2011 and then I ran in 2016, between that time, I was able to put up several businesses. And during the time I put up several businesses, I also incurred so many problems that a businessman would have to face on a daily basis in terms of local permitting and national permittings, because some of my businesses were national and needed national permits. And so, using that information and stock knowledge, we were able to craft together with all the chambers. This was in support of all the chambers of commerce, from American Chamber, Japanese Chamber, Korean Chamber rather, European Chamber of Commerce. Even our Philippine Chamber of Commerce was in full support. And this was the clamor at that time with the last administration, was to fight corruption, we needed the ease of doing business law. So we did pass it, and I'd say it's one of the landmark pieces of legislation to fight corruption. Unfortunately, in the last few quarters, or this last year alone, they've been receiving difficulty from, of course, it's all started with companies that they had, not companies, but rather local government agencies and national government agencies that they had crossed, no, because of this ease of doing business. And many complained, like NTC and all the others, na bakit daw sila kasali. But in all honesty, when we crafted the law, kasama lahat ng government agencies. Because if we accept a few, and this particular few that wanted to be exempted were the ones that were notoriously being reported to the government as taking 6 months to 1 year. You're talking about FDA, NTC, ERC, and all other agencies. let's put this in proper context. The law was not placed there to give an automatic approval of permits. No, because the agency can say no. The agency can see the deficiency and say, hindi siya pwede bigyan ng permit. Acceptable po yan. Ang gusto lang po natin mangyari ay gawa nila ng desisyon agad, whether it's a yes or a no. And it saddens me because it really pains my heart that you've seen right now, and I've seen, and I really wish that this could be published to the people all over the country to see what they've done in the last few years. Because I've attended several ease of doing business conferences, and it was still our good friend sa NGO, si Bill Luz, who's well respected by all sides. Huh? Whatever political color you're in, Bill Luz is very well respected as an ease of doing business anti-red tape champion. And he himself acknowledged, because of the law, we have jumped leaps and bounds towards the right direction. And it pains me to see that there are agencies that still are giving this law a difficult time. And recently, the ombudsman had come out asking for the repeal and the abolish the agency, which I think is a step. It's 1,000 steps backwards to the wrong direction, and we're doing this because of best practices. And I just want to put this on record in this committee in support of ARTA. Yeah, we have been using best practices. As a matter of fact, we tapped Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand. By the way, we're not the only country to have an anti-red tape legislation or an office. It's standard for many other countries. And I'd like to cite Australia, which has its own red tape committee, Singapore, which also has its own law and checks and balances, and New Zealand, which revamped its Building Act to cut red tape for the housing sector, and also is number one in ease of doing business in the whole world. So this is the reason why these three, the top three that I mentioned, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, are in the top 10 in terms of ease of doing business, is because they have legislation to promote ease of doing business. And they have agencies to make sure that it is properly implemented. And so I think we need to inculcate this. I think we need to dialogue with these agencies all the way to the very top to show them that this is the best practice being done all over the world. If we want foreign direct investment to come in here to the country, even local direct investment, we need this law in place. So I'm here in full support of the ARTA and the ease of doing business law. As a matter of fact, I'm here to offer my services for a dialogue. Why don't we dialogue with the Office of the Ombudsman? And why don't we dialogue with the other agencies? We can call, of course, the only problem is there are ongoing litigation in the Court of Appeals. But we should do, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had a win in the Court of Appeals. I saw a statement that said that the Court of Appeals had recognized the law and the mandate of ARTA. So that's quite important. And also quite important to take note that we jumped 30 notches from 124th to 95th. We'd probably be even higher if there was because of the pandemic, nawala yung survey. I think we'd probably be higher even in the ease of doing business survey. Kaya nasasayangan ako. And while we are around, the authors and the promoters of this law, together with Senator Risa and many others, you have our support in the Senate. But we need to dialogue because it is quite alarming that they're making already certain statements. And of course, that may erode the, I'd say, powers and I'd say reputation of the agency. It will erode because it has a chilling effect, no, to the agency, especially on how you will conduct now your mandate as the champion against red tape. So my question is, first of all, I would like to say I'm in full support. Don't worry about that. I came out with a statement recently when I spoke in it was a conference, and I passed it on to your former or suspended Director General Jeremiah Belica. And he was very happy, and I think he shared it with all of you. My next step now is to ask questions. Why do you think, Attorney DG, why do you think the ombudsman is averse to your agency? Is it because you flooded them with cases all of a sudden? I was thinking, baka binigla ninyo ilang libong kaso ang binigay niyo sa kanya. But it's obvious that you only, in your record, you only had no more than 100 cases were filed, I think. So, what is your idea on how we can, on the reasons why the ombudsman is averse to our law? So that we can I can also be elucidated on why, so that we can come up with a proper dialogue with the ombudsman.
Before Attorney Perez replies, thank you very much, SP, di lang sa presence nyo sa hearing namin, but for that offer of support in the dialogue. Tinanong ko rin po ito kina OICDG Perez in our briefing about the ombudsman. And so paki-update din po si SP about nag-efforts na rin po sila to reach out to the Office of the Ombudsman. There is a process underway, but most probably could be helped also by your support. So, Attorney Perez, please.
Thank you, Senate President Mig Subiri, for always being supportive of the Anti-Retive Authority. First, we have issued an official statement in response to the statement of the Ombudsman that ARTA is encroaching on the jurisdiction of the Ombudsman with respect to the fight against red tape. We have also written him seeking a courtesy call that we have no intention at all on encroaching on the jurisdiction of the powers of the Ombudsman. In fact, we say that we emphasize that we're just assisting the Office of the Ombudsman in view of the mandate of ARTA under Republic Act 11032, which is to implement the national policy on anti-red tape. We are not encroaching on the jurisdiction because when we file cases, we file it either with the Office of the Ombudsman based on our findings or with the Civil Service Commission. If the violation under Section 21, and the violations are very specific under Section 21, if the official or employee involved is a holder of salary grade 26 and below, and if it is purely administrative, we file it with the Civil Service Commission. Now, if the case involves both criminal and administrative, and it involves a salary grade 27 and up, meaning a presidential appointee, we file it with the Office of the, of course, after conducting clarificatory hearings. So we defer to the jurisdiction of the Office of the Ombudsman. And after our hearing at the House, and I was privileged to meet him after I reached out to him, and he knows me because when I was a practicing lawyer, I used to appear before him at the Sandigan Bayan. And he just smiled, and I said, can we schedule a courtesy meeting with you? He just smiled, and he said, we will schedule it. And thank you, Senate President, for the offer to help us or even accompany us in the meeting with the Ombudsman, which we hope will happen soon. Yes, sir.
We'll be doing that probably timing because it's also the budget season. He already had actually defended his budget here last week, if I'm not mistaken. But I can always invite him over again, maybe when we get back on November during the deliberations. And I'll ask him to sit down in our office. We can dialogue with him and say, present to him what has happened.
Yes.
What have we done? I mean, it's leaps and bounds forward. We shouldn't go backward. And we don't have prosecutorial powers anyways, right?
Yes, sir.
It is like I will explain to him, this is like the Blue Ribbon Committee, where the Blue Ribbon comes up with its findings and we come up with a report. We just pass it to the agencies if they want to act on it or not.
Yes, sir.
Basically, that is the same situation with ARTA, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Senate
correct?
President. In fact, whatever findings and recommendations we have, we just submit this to the Office of the Ombudsman for further evaluation. In fact, even our automatic approval under Section 10, It's just recommendatory. After conducting hearings and after determining that all the documents have been submitted and these were not processed within that standard processing time of 3720 and that the fees have been paid, we recommend and we direct the agency to evaluate and issue the automatic approval. The agency, the ARTA, does not issue the automatic approval. It is the agency itself. And it has the discussion whether to issue it or not. In fact, in one automatic approval order we issued to the DNR, the DNR appealed our finding with the Court of Appeals. And recently, we were sustained by the Court of Appeals and the appeal by the DNR was dismissed, saying that we have the jurisdiction to issue that.
Malayan, attorney, kasi ako nga nung nag-apply nga ako ng subdivision plan, I bought from a 800 square meter lot highway in Tablon in Barangay Agusan in CDO just to split it to half. Okay? 400 square meters lang. Binili ko sa mother title 400 square meters para makatayo din ako ng mga industrial ice plant ko. It took me almost 8 months to get approval for that subdivision plan. We did the subdivision plan. All the guy to do is sign it off. Sign it off. Dumaan na ako ng ilang blowout na pakain, pa-Christmas, paano. Can you imagine that's already me? What about our common brothers and sisters that are businessmen? Baka taon-taon yun. Diba? So that is exactly my point. That's why I'm backing you guys up. I want to tell the ombudsman that is my experience. I'm not here as a lawmaker. I'm here putting my hat as a businessman. This is what happened to me on my personal experience. This is what's happening to tens of thousands of people applying for even just their passport, even just for their license, for their driver's license. They go through the pain of waiting and pakiusap and fixers and all that, which is now under your 3720 has cut dramatically. And I'm so happy to see that 91% of the LGUs and other agencies have come up with their citizens charter, which was never the case before. Because now under the law, the citizens charter must be posted in the website or in the place of transaction. It must be followed to the hilt. Yan ang Bible nila when it comes to this type of transactions. That's a feat on its own. And I want to actually do a dialogue. I want you also to present this to the president. Because the president, when I spoke to him about this, he also asked me, parang he mentioned na maybe the ombudsman has merit to his case. Then we had short, it was just, you know how it is, when you meet the president, it's only 5 minutes. I have to sit down with him, with all of you, to present this. And let him ask you questions also. So that way, they can push for it like the previous administration, although I know my chairperson here is not a fan of the previous administration. Pero in fairness to him, bukang bibig niya sa SONA, sa ease of doing business. Right? So we want to, especially with this administration wanting to showcase this to the world, our country, we want to showcase and highlight that we have these laws and systems in place already for them to invest. In the absence of that, people are still wary of coming to the Philippines. They'd rather go to Singapore, Vietnam, and they'll bypass us. So we really need to highlight this. So I'm here, and I'll end this by saying that I'm here in full support of ARTA and the Ease of Doing Business Act. We both, Ma'am Risa and I are both authors of this measure, and we voted for this. I will try my best to try to come up with a dialogue between your office together with the important agencies, the agencies that need to be dialogued with so that we can have a smooth sailing of the implementation of the law. Maybe in terms of if there's a problem with the ombudsman, maybe we can discuss on that dialogue on how probably it is processed, how it is filed. This may be procedural without having to collapse an agency, which is doing its job well. If I'm not, I'm not mistaken by saying they're doing the job well. Are you still? My last question: are you still with the DTI, under the DTI, or under the Office of the President?
Not anymore. In the first year of operation of ARTA, our budget used to be attached to the DTI, but we're now totally independent from the DTI. Although the DTI secretary is the chair of the Ease of Doing Business Anti-Red Tape Advisory Council.
Can I know why I just want to see, because before we had a very active and supportive DTI Secretary, Secretary Lopez, on this measure.
Yes, sir.
How come the new DTI Secretary has been very silent about this?
We have actually written the DTI Secretary as the Advisory Council Chair as early as July of this year, seeking for a courtesy call, or because we want already to convene the Advisory Council. But in view of his tight schedule, we have not been successful in getting an appointment with him.
And I want to hear his thoughts about this because,
Yeah.
we used to have a very active DTI Secretary. Now we have a very quiet DTI Secretary. I don't know why. Yes. Tama ba ako? I don't hear much about the DTI anymore. I used to hear Yusek Mon Lopez in the news and TV every week. Very active. When is his budget? And he hasn't been confirmed yet, right? Those commissioner appointments? Well, those are the questions that me and my dear friend Risa are going to be asking him during the confirmatory hearings. So why that he's been so quiet? And I think he should be supporting this measure. His job is to be the number one salesman of the country when it comes to business investments. I don't know what his reasons are. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him. But anyway, you have my 1,000% support, gentlemen and ladies. And I'm here to support your measly budget. Kawawa naman yung budget nila. Huwag na natin patagalin pa para makakain na itong mga to. But anyway, Madam Chairperson, thank you so much. Attorney Ernest, good to see you. And all of the men and women, keep up the good work. You guys are doing a tremendous job sometimes when you do good things. And there are large waves out there trying to stop you and bumps in the road. Just ignore them and full speed ahead. Just continue. And we will do our best to help you. So maraming salamat, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Godspeed, everybody.
Thank you, Senate President. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Daghang salamat po, the SP, for your presence, for your support, for the ARTA, its enabling law exactly, and the ARTA budget po, and your offer of supporting their dialogue process with the ombudsman and maybe other heads of constitutional bodies man or other agencies, including with the DTI Secretary. Daghang salamat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So if you just like to complete the budget presentation, Attorney Perez, para kung wala nang ibang, I have a few questions, pero kung wala nang ibang mga kasamang magtatanong pa, we can eventually deem this submitted this morning. You have the floor still, Attorney Perez.
On the proposed budget, actually, the authority proposed a budget for 2023 of 860 million. What was approved by the DBM is only 200, 266 million. And this is the breakdown, actually. Wait na. Okay. For a proposed budget of 801,797,000 for 2023, the Department of Budget and Management approved as only for 266,530,000.
Halos
Which-
25% lang, Attorney.
Yes. Of which ano ba yan? Breakdown. Yes. Saan na? Ito na. Yung breakdown. Yung baba, oh. Ito makita. Ito. Yeah. All right. The 266,530,000 is broken down as follows. For GMS, or General Management and Supervision, 117,464. for PAP1 in monitoring and evaluate compliance to RA 11032, it's 57.1 million. For PAP2, 54 million. And for PAP3, 37.9 million. What was removed from the proposal is actually the budget of 30,300,000, and this is a really cause of concern for us because unless this is reinstated, we will not be able to operate our 8 regional offices. As the said regional field offices only relies on the centrally managed funding from the central office. As the authorities implementing ARM in the regional offices, the RFOs or regional field offices perform empowerment and enforcement functions. Also, we have no budget for capital outlay. In fact, even our budget for 24 million in 2020, the 20 million was not released. There was no capital outlay at all for 2021. And for 2022, the 9,700,000 is yet for release. As a request for the additional budget of 150 million, ARTA requests that to sustain the existing PAPs and then to jumpstart new initiatives in faithful adherence to ARTA's strategic thrust being implemented and to support the 8-point socioeconomic agenda of the President, particularly on the national government right-sizing program. Now, to compensate for the reduction in the ARTA's budget amounting to 40 million, 30.3 million on maintenance and other operating expenses, and 9.7 million on capital outlay. Our confidential fund of 10 million released this year will not be available anymore for next year. And we're hoping that in this request for 150 million, this is submitted to your office, Madam Senator. The 150 million is broken down as follows. GMS, 96.3 million, of which 49.5 million is for MOE, and for capital outlay, it's for 46.7 million. For the monitoring and evaluation compliance to RA 11032, 21.1 million for MOE, 0 for capital outlay, and that's a total of 21.1 million. For the PAP3 or PAP2, MOE of 11.7 million, 0 capital outlay, and for PAP3, for legal and services and public assistance, 20.7 million or total of 150 million. And how do we intend to spend this request for 150 million? 27.7 million will be for capital outlay for motor vehicles and ICT equipment. 29.3 million for MOE for hiring of professional services, repair and maintenance, fuel and oil, internet subscription, ICT software subscription, traveling, rents of ICT machinery and equipment. For the full operationalization of the ARTA regional offices, we request additional budget of 19 million for the purchase of 8 motorcycles, not cars, not even cars, just motorcycles. And also for admin and admin support requirements of these 8 regional offices, 20.3 million. And to sustain our operations in the central office, we request that the confidential fund of 10 million pesos be restored. And then for other operating expenses, 1.4 million. The full implementation of the Philippine EODB reporting system, 3.4 million. Rollout of the Philippine Business Hub, 1 million pesos. Training, advocacy, and enforcement programs, 16.8 million. Inspection, checking of LGUs per region coordination meetings, 10 million. Then printing and distribution and advocacy of ARTA manual, 6.2 million. And then, of course, administrative and support requirements of 12.1 million, or a total of 150 million, Madam Chair. That ends our presentation, Madam Senator.
Thank you very much, Attorney Perez. I'm sure na, especially with the interest of the Senate President, meron pa po tayong magagawa in terms of responding to your additional budget request. I just have one final question for today dun sa mga naitanong ko na sa inyo nung briefing. And baka na-overhear nyo rin naman yung pagtanong ko din kay CSC Chair Carlo kanina. So, it's still the same topic, yung intersection po between ARTA and CSC's anti-red tape efforts. So, as you heard earlier, DG, I asked Chair Carlo Nograles of the CSC what anti-red tape efforts they are doing that complement those being done by ARTA, and what, if any, are efforts that may overlap between your two agencies. And this is because CSC's contact center ng bayan, top 5 complaints received relate to the anti-red tape effort. So yung pangunahing mga reklamo sa kanila, slow process, failure to act on request, among others. At na yung sinabi din ni Chair Carlo ng CSC na yung regional offices nila may anti-red tape desks. At sila nga daw, bago na buo ng batas yung ARTA, were the anti-red tape unit of government. So may I ask then, for the record, that same question to you, DG. Also because I remember that dito nga po sa additional budget request, ARTA requests funding for the full operation of your regional offices. Also earlier, one of the assistant commissioners of CSC informed this committee that talks are ongoing between CSC and ARTA, specifically to delineate clearly CSC and ARTA's function. So in relation po dun sa filing of cases, in relation po dun sa analysis ng results ng mga survey ninyo. So please.
Thank you, Madam Senator, for that question. There are only 2 areas of collaboration with the Civil Service Commission, and there's no really overlapping because on the complaints handling, whatever findings and recommendations we have, and if the case involves purely administrative and the government official or employee involved is a salary grade level 26 and below and not a presidential appointee, we file our case or findings with the Civil Service Commission. Now, number 2 is on the report card survey, where we hired an independent third-party surveyor, and whatever findings we can have in that report card survey, the Civil Service Commission has agreed that we can forward our findings and recommendations in that report card survey for further validation by the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission, in view of its experience, it is the agency that used to implement this report card survey, but it is only now through the Anti-Red Tape Authority that we have actually unified the process of conducting the report survey and hiring a consultant, technical consultant, and we have really professionalized the conduct of the survey by hiring a third-party survey company, and also being assisted by our staff from the Compliance Monitoring Office. So the survey is being conducted for the top 50 agencies, and hopefully the findings can be done by November, and whatever the result of the findings will be transmitted to the Civil Service Commission in its various anti-red tape units distributed nationwide for further validation, and they have agreed to do that already. And we have no question. In fact, during the consultation process of the report card survey, the Civil Service Commission has been actively participating and supporting our this initiative. If that meeting will only formalize, but actually as we speak, there is actually no issue or concern at all with the Civil Service Commission. We can assure the Honorable Senator that there is no overlapping because we defer to the Civil Service Commission. Whatever findings we have, we defer it on the complaints. And on the report card survey, we also defer to them for further validation because ARTA simply does not have the resources and the budget to manage the RCS. So there are the anti-red tape unit that was retained in the law in the Civil Service Commission is actually will complement the effort of the Anti-Red Tape Authority in terms of complaints handling. In fact, they even have more resources because they have offices nationwide, and that the Civil Service Commission is okay with the collaboration and the delineation of these functions between ARTA and the Civil Service Commission.
Salamat. So, since there are no other colleagues online or forthcoming here in person to ask any further questions, there are no more additional queries. The budget of the Anti-Red Tape Authority is deemed submitted to plenary and this meeting is suspended.
Thank you po.
Thank
Madam
you.
Senator.
Mabuhay po.
Salamat po. Can we have a picture with you?